Hey guys, what is going on? It is DaBoki here once again. It's time for another Luminous video. I am here on DaBoki and I am third job now. I just recently hit it. I got to level 60, so now I am third job and it is pretty fun. I gotta say guys, I really like the light skills. I think it flows really nicely. The dark skills are nice too, but I just really haven't gotten into them yet, so light skills are pretty awesome. So the topic of today's video is problems. Now I was thinking about this a lot, and I know I did talk about problems in a lot of my videos, and that's kind of what all life is about, right? Just problems everywhere. And I just think, you're normal if you have problems, and I think that's what us humans, we have problems. Everything has problems. A dog has a problem, a person has a problem, an ant has a problem. I mean, we all have problems, but the special thing about us is that we can communicate about our problems. But the funny thing about us is that we don't like to communicate about our problems. We never really like to tell people about our problems, or I'm not sure about you guys, but I sure really don't. I mean, when people ask me, hey, how are you doing, like what is your response to that question? What is the normal response? Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing okay. But really though, like how are you doing? Because really people, they have so many problems back at home, with their work, with their family, relationships, school. So there is just a lot of things going on in people's heads, but when someone always asks them, we're just so conditioned to say, we're doing okay, doing good, because we don't want to burden the other person, we don't want to take up time, we just want to go ahead and get on with our life. We don't want to sit there for hours discussing what our problems are to someone. They just want to say, hey, how are you doing? That's how we greet each other these days. But in reality though, how are you doing? I get so used to just saying, I'm okay, I'm doing good. But really though, I got so many things on my plate, it's just that I just don't want to tell them, because I just feel like it's not really the right time. And this kind of makes me feel like I can get used to the fact that I can take care of my problems by myself. We can just go ahead and deal with it or not really think about it, and it'll just go away over time. But let me tell you guys, problems inside you can really eat you up. They're really heavy. They burden us a lot. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that, but when you have a problem and you don't really like to talk about it, it really sits deep and heavy inside of you. Now, I'm going to refer back to my programming book because I've just been reading it recently a lot, and they made up a really good point here. When you have a problem, when you program, usually when programmers, they have a problem, they can't really think of something, and they're just sitting there, because us programmers, we usually program alone. That's why these days we're really trying to work with pairs or couples, trying to get into this group project so that you can talk about it. But when they said that when you have a problem, the best thing to do is just talk about it out loud. Even though if no one is there to listen to you, just talk to your hand, talk to something. When you say it out loud, it kind of makes more sense, because when you're just thinking it inside your head, you got really clouded thoughts, a lot of different thoughts are kind of mingling with it and clouding your judgment. But when you say it out loud, it makes a lot more sense, things start to go into order, and you really know what you want to do with the problem. And I really think we can relate this to our real life stuff as well. When you have a problem and it's sitting inside your head and you don't talk about it, you don't like to talk to anyone, you don't say it out loud, it really gets weird inside your head. You start really overthinking things, you start really complicating things and really making things more unnecessary than it has to be. And when you just say it out loud, it maybe even will sound silly that you were having this problem, and you might even find a solution or an easy fix for your problem. Now, why I think it's so important to talk about it with someone else, especially with either a family member, a close friend, really just sit down and just let it out. I really think it's great that you can open up to someone, because when you have this problem, it's your personal problem. But when you tell someone else, it's not their problem, but they're willing to listen to you and help you find a solution for it. Now, it's really great when you have someone else listening to your problem from outside of the problem, because they are not clouded and they're not really biased by what you are thinking. So they can really give a clean thought to what your problem is, or even a solution. Now, I think as people, we should really bond together, we should really talk about things a lot more than we do today. I just feel like people really like to keep things inside and really keep things to themselves, and they like to put up this really hard wall, this great wall of China around them, and they're not really liking to talk about problems or really anything with each other. And I really think it's antisocial, that's just kind of how our nature is. When you see a stranger, you don't really go cry on their shoulder and slobber on their face about your problems. We're really not very sociable, especially when I commute with the train, and I see this a lot on trains and stuff. with public transportation, you know, everyone likes to sit by themselves. And when someone sits next to someone, it's just like really awkward and weird, and they would rather stand than like take a seat next to you, and I see it a lot, and I think it's just really interesting how people act sometimes. Now that being said, I'm not saying go and slobber on strangers. I'm just saying if you have a friend, if you have a family member, lend out your problems to them. You know, they won't mind. They definitely would like to hear, and you guys will definitely grow a lot stronger. It's always easier to do this with another person. So guys, like always, thank you so much for watching, and really ask yourself, how are you doing? This has been DaBoki, and we'll be seeing you guys later.